Right now, data runs through the ocean floor, 4,000 meters beneath the Atlantic, 8,000 meters under the Pacific. Light passing through glass thinner than a human hair, still, without pause. Nearly 99% of the world's international data flows through these cables. This video came the same way. But here's the strange part. Many of the companies that laid these cables are gone. Hundreds of billions vanished. The glass remained. What collapsed was the company. What survived was the infrastructure. Who fell and who stood on the wreckage. This is not a story of technological progress. This is the history of infrastructure built by bankruptcy. A company that never once turned a profit, left behind $12.4 billion in debt, then disappeared. Another fabricated numbers equal to an entire nation's annual education budget, and set the record for the largest bankruptcy in American history. The glass fiber they buried in the ocean floor is carrying light right now. Now let's follow who picked up the wreckage. In the 1970s, physicists were working on an old problem. What if light could be confined inside glass instead of copper wire? The theory had existed since the 1800s. Practical application was the challenge. Any trace of impurity in the glass, and the light died within a few hundred meters. The answer was purity. Remove the impurities from glass to the absolute limit, and light could run for dozens of kilometers without loss. A single fiber the thickness of a human hair could carry 30,000 simultaneous calls. The limits of copper wire collapsed in an instant. The glass fiber that traps light was born. In 1988, the first fiber optic cable was laid on the floor of the Atlantic. The line connecting the US and Europe handled 40 times more calls than the previous copper cable. The technology was proven, but capital had not yet moved. Crossing the ocean floor was still the job of governments and telecom consortiums, for now. In the early 1990s, a single technology changed the rules. A method emerged. Shoot multiple colors of light simultaneously through one glass fiber. First 8 signals, then 64. Eventually 160, all in a single strand. A one-lane road suddenly becoming 160 lanes. Capacity of cables already in the ground could increase 1,000-fold. No new cable needed. Just attach new equipment to the existing lines. The moment this reached the capital markets, a logic took hold. Claim infinite demand before someone else does. Every seed of the madness that followed was planted here. There was a paradox. A technology emerged that could increase capacity without laying new cables, and capital responded by laying more cables. At the exact moment supply was exploding, supply was growing far faster than demand. Almost no one ran the numbers. In 1997, a man walked into Los Angeles with $20 million and started a company. His name? Gary Winnick, a financier, trained under Michael Milken trading junk bonds, not a technologist. But when it came to raising money, exceptional. The company? Global Crossing. That same year, in Omaha, Nebraska, a very different kind of man was moving quietly. James Crow, from construction company Kiewit. He read fiber optics not as a story of glass and light, but as a story of pipelines and unit costs. The company, Level 3, a name no one paid attention to. Instead of burying cable himself, Crow secured existing rights-of-way along railroads and pipelines. He minimized the cost of excavation. While others competed, he stockpiled cash. He was waiting for the storm to pass. Nobody knew why. February 1996. The US government overhauled its telecommunications laws. Barriers that had held for decades, gone. Anyone could enter the telecom business. Word spread, a gold mine had been found. Capital began to pour. Hundreds of companies charged in simultaneously, all with the same logic. Internet traffic will grow without limit. The day bandwidth runs out will come. If you don't lay now, you'll be late. In 5 years, Over $500 billion was poured into fiber cable, an amount equal to the entire cost of the Iraq War, buried underground and under the sea in 5 years. No one knew what the others were planning. In 1999, Global Crossing acquired Rival Frontier for $9.9 billion, less than 2 years after founding the company, a company that had never turned a profit, closing a multi-billion-dollar deal. Total telecom M&A for 1999 alone, over $800 billion. Not to lay cable, to inflate the stock price. There was a number that fueled the madness. Internet traffic doubles every 100 days, a claim seeded by WorldCom executives. It made it into government reports. Wall Street analysts amplified it. This number became gospel. Run the math, and it's unsettling. Over 1,000% annual growth rate. To meet that demand, you'd need 100 times more cable than what was being laid now. If you don't move now, you're late. The entire market was standing on this single lie. But Andrew Odlyzko, a mathematician at AT&T Labs, tracked the actual data himself. After a year of analysis, the conclusion came. Real internet traffic was doubling annually. Not every 100 days. Once a year. A gap of 5 times. Odlyzko called the number an urban legend. The industry did not listen. The moment anyone denied the lie, everyone's stock price would collapse. So no one stopped. All the while, the cable kept piling up. By 2001, WorldCom had acquired more than 60 companies. Using an inflated stock price as currency, the stock had to rise for acquisitions to work. Acquisitions were needed to keep the stock up. The moment this cycle broke, the scale of the lie would be exposed. That scale? $11 billion. 80 million miles. Enough cable to wrap the Earth more than 3,000 times was laid. But how much of that cable actually had light passing through it? Of every 100 lines dug, only 5 to 15 were ever lit. The remaining 85 to 95% sat dormant, no signal flowing. The industry called it dark fiber, sleeping glass, infrastructure built by burning hundreds of billions, lying in the dark, never once used. When this madness ends, what remains? Not the cable. What remains is cable stripped of value, and people stripped of their futures. The bill had not yet arrived, but it was already being written, in the names of hundreds of thousands. All the while, attempts were being made to hide the numbers. 2 telecoms sold bandwidth to each other. No actual data needed to move. The same amount of money exchanged hands both ways, and both sides recorded revenue, like buying and selling empty boxes. Global Crossing classified purchased bandwidth as long-term assets. Sold bandwidth was booked as immediate revenue for the current year. No cash actually came in. Numbers accumulated only on paper. The cables were empty, but the report said, growth. Empty cables, empty revenue. The stock went up. The auditor signed. The analyst said buy. Everyone played their part. Those parts assembled into a bubble. When the bubble burst, accountability was always last. In 1999, Global Crossing reached a valuation of $47 billion, a company that had never once turned a profit. Winnick's $20 million investment had become a multi-billion-dollar stake. Inside the company, thousands of employees. Outside, shareholders who believed in its future. Winnick began quietly selling his shares. Before filing for bankruptcy, Winnick sold $735 million worth of shares, recovered 36 times his investment, then signed the bankruptcy papers. Other executives unloaded an additional $900 million. On Global Crossing's board, former presidents' family members and political figures. The losses flowed down. The cash escaped upward first. Corning stock jumped from $12 to $100. A reflection of the belief that fiber optic demand would grow without limit. Factories ran at full capacity. Cable manufacturers, equipment companies, excavation firms, all in a boom. No one questioned it. No one confirmed whether the demand that doubled every 100 days was actually there. March 2000. The Nasdaq began to break. Bandwidth prices collapsed first. Wholesale rates that were once $1 per minute fell 55% annually. Supply had outpaced demand by more than tenfold. The gap was now showing in the price. January 2002. Global Crossing filed for bankruptcy protection. Debt, $12.4 billion. Employees lost their jobs. Shareholders' money evaporated. The day Winnick signed the bankruptcy papers, he was already holding $735 million in cash. 6 months later, a larger explosion. WorldCom collapsed. $11 billion in accounting fraud exposed. CEO Bernie Ebbers had been reclassifying operating costs as capital expenditures, the largest accounting fraud in American history. July 2002. WorldCom filed for bankruptcy. Ebbers received 25 years in prison. Corning's stock dropped to the price of a coffee. Wholesale bandwidth prices fell more than 90% from their peak. Between 2001 and 2002, $2 trillion in telecom market cap evaporated into thin air. The wreckage opened, but what lay buried inside was not glass. It was people, employees, investors, pensions. In the telecom industry alone, more than 500,000 jobs vanished. Only the glass survived. Those who had been waiting to take it were already there. James Crow of Level 3 appeared at the bankruptcy auctions. He had not come to save the industry. While others laid cable with borrowed money, he had been stockpiling cash. Now that cash was a weapon. He was ready to buy, at the lowest possible price, roads already paved by someone else's bankruptcy. In 2002, Level 3 acquired Genuity's assets for $242 million. Building that infrastructure originally cost billions. 1/10 of the original cost. A construction industry philosophy of cost control became the tool that swallowed the telecom bubble's wreckage. This is when Warren Buffett invested in Level 3. Level 3 did not stop. One by one, it absorbed the assets of bankrupt rivals. In 2011, it acquired Global Crossing for $3 billion. The same company Winnick had sold is worth $47 billion. The price? 1/16. Crow had not saved the industry. He had simply bought the roads others paved through bankruptcy, at the lowest possible price. An empire built from the wreckage of bankruptcy was complete. Verizon swallowed MCI, the successor company of WorldCom, risen from bankruptcy. Even a legacy built by fraud found a buyer. Infrastructure does not care about guilt. Criminal's cable. Bankrupt man's cable. Whoever survived could use it. While the US was caught in the vortex of this madness, Europe was destroying its telecoms in a different way. In 2000, the UK government extracted £22.5 billion from 3G spectrum auctions. Germany collected £30 billion. States were extracting capital from private telecoms. The US left empty lines from oversupply. Europe sank into a swamp of excess debt. Same technology, different ruin. America's empty cables became the internet highway 20 years later. Europe's debt just stayed debt. The manner of ruin determined the direction of the legacy. The sleeping glass began to fill with light in 2005. YouTube launched. Within 18 months, it claimed 10% of all internet traffic. Then, AWS Cloud in 2006. Netflix streaming in 2007. iPhone the same year. Catalysts to fill the dark fiber arrived one after another. The excess created by madness became the foundation of revolution. In 2001, less than 15% of the cable was in use. By 2018, it barely crossed the halfway mark. The infrastructure once mocked as excess is now insufficient. As traffic enters an era of doubling every 2 years, the 1990s legacy can no longer keep up. Even the Predator was eventually swallowed by a larger structure. Level 3, built from bankruptcy wreckage, was sold to CenturyLink. The merged company collapsed under massive debt and fell out of the S&P 500. Not even the gravedigger was permanent. And the ones who profited most from that infrastructure were different. They never appeared at the auction. They sold services over the cables and quietly took the cables themselves. The ones who inherited the telecom empire were not telecoms. In 2025, the entities controlling 71% of global undersea cable traffic, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon. A decade ago, their combined share was under 10%. Companies that earn money from advertising, cloud, and e-commerce now hold the world's international communications infrastructure. Telecoms lost the telecom infrastructure. Platform companies took their place. The bubble investors of the 1990s could not have imagined this ending. If they had not gone bankrupt, this transfer would never have happened. Meta is building a 50,000-kilometer cable connecting 5 continents, alone. Not a nation-state. An advertising company is building a submarine cable empire. Standing on the glass fiber left on the ocean floor by bankrupt telecoms, big tech has acquired power greater than borders. Every day, $9.47 trillion in financial transactions passes through undersea cables. More than 600 undersea cable systems now span 1.5 million kilometers. What first opened this path was not planning, not government, not goodwill. It was the debt left behind by bankrupt companies. The road laid on bankruptcy papers is carrying civilization right now. Madness built it. Bankruptcy completed it. Not planning, not goodwill. $500 billion of frenzy became the skeleton of human communication. This is the world built by greed.